All right, so I guess we need even more of a backstory. So I just posted that video for my few new followers I had because everyone who's on my page knows me. They know my story. They're all my genuine friends. And so I didn't feel like I had to like go into the whole backstory because everyone already knows who's on my page, but now there's like a lot of new people and they're like, I thought you just said you were held captive. So let's go into the backstory, shall we? I'm a former foster youth who aged out of the system. When I aged out of the system, I did not have a safe place to be. This man met me and he said, I will take care of you. I will make sure you're okay. I knew him for 2 weeks and we met in person once before we got married. One time before we got married. Should I have gotten married? No. Should somebody have said, Andrea, this is not safe? Absolutely. Did I have family who was doing that for me? Absolutely not. In fact, my family that I was taken away from by CPS and put into foster care actually just told me that they'd buy my daughter off me for 10 grand if I wanted to skedaddle. And I would have never left my daughter behind. I wanted something better for her. So I was like, no, I'm going to give us a good life. I'm going to give us a good life. And so he told me he had a house in Arizona, California, and Las Vegas. And of course, I believed him. Again, you guys, no social skills were here, right? So I went from like a really abusive home to like a group home. I didn't have like normal like mindset of what life was, up or down, backwards or forwards. I had no idea what I was doing. So we get married under very contentious circumstances because my family basically tries to tell me that, you know, they want to ban my daughter, whatever. I call him crying. He comes and gets me in the middle of the night. And we get married in a park the next day. My friend marries us. So we get married. Now this is going to come very important later on in the story. We get married in the park. My friend marries us. We sign our marriage certificate. We hand it to my friend. She goes to turn it in. And we head on our merry way. He says we're going to his house in Arizona. We end up going to a town in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, called Dolan Springs, Arizona. So this, guys, is like, if you're familiar with Arizona, there's a town called Kingman, and then you keep going, and all of a sudden there's this like turnoff, and you drive down this turnoff for a really long time, and you end up in a place called Dolan Springs. Dolan Springs has like one stop sign, okay? And it is like you have to keep driving for miles and miles. Eventually you'll hit like the reservation part of like one side of the Grand Canyon, but there's nobody out there. Nobody's out there, okay? If you are out there, you know each other, but he had a house out there. So we get there in the middle of the night. He pulls up, he like turns on like this floodlight, and all of a sudden it's like this shell of a house that's out there, and I was like, what is happening? And I kept getting this really bad feeling, really, really bad feeling when he's driving me down these dirt roads. I was like, I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to survive this. But we get to the shell of a house. He turns on the floodlight. We walk inside, and there's nothing in this house. It's brick and cement. There's nowhere for us to, there's nothing. It's just like the outside, the shell of a house. Like there's nothing. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? There was a table, one bed, and like a stove. And I was like, I cannot stay here. And he didn't even have running water. And I start sobbing. And I was like, I want to go home. Will you take me home? He's like, I'm not taking you anywhere. He started getting really volatile. And I was like, I just want to go home. I want to go home. And he has his older son with him. His older son I think he was 10 at the time. And he's cackling. And I was like sobbing. And I was like, please just let me go home. He's like, there is no home. You're not going home. I was terrified. There was no cell phone service out there. So I had my phone with no cell phone service. I didn't know what to do. He kept me out there for like 2 days, right? Before he said, you're being too dramatic. I'm taking you to my house in California. I was like, okay, maybe this is better. And he started being very angry, very controlling. I mean, we were out in the middle of nowhere. So it was like survival mode camping where you are like with this insane man and he has you camping in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. So we get in his truck and he drives to California, to Los Angeles. We pull up at this house and this lady comes running out of the house and it is his mother. And if I've ever met the devil, it is my ex. But if I've ever met the devil's mother, it is her, okay? So she comes running out and she hugs him and she says, oh my gosh, I missed you so much. And she looks at me and she goes, And she hated me right off the bat. And I tried my hardest to be kind to her. I was like, hey, nice to meet you. There was nothing. And I was like, is this your house or is it your mom's house? And he's like, this is my house, but I let her live here. And I was like, okay. So I figure it's his house. We walk in, y'all. She's a hoarder. I walk in and this house is a hoarding house. And he has one bedroom that is his that has one bed and like a fold desk with a TV on it. And I was like, I don't understand. You're supposed to have your own business. Like, this is supposed to be your house, but you have one bed with a fold out. I was like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, what is happening? And he starts telling me that I'm a gold digger, that I'm this, that I'm that, and that I'm awful. And I'm like, I just want to go home. Like, I just want to go home. This is no better. I don't want to be here. He kept me there for about 2 weeks. His mom tortured me for those 2 weeks, y'all. Like, the things she said and did to me were horrendous. And I was not let out of the house. And I was so scared. I was so scared. I got a message out to my brother and I told him, like, I'm married, I'm in LA, and my ex is standing over me watching what I'm texting. And I'm trying to text my brother something that where he would know that something was very wrong. But my brother and I had a very strained relationship because of something that had happened. That I didn't do this something. If you guys have been here for a while, you know this something that had happened. And so I'm trying my best to communicate with my brother, but we haven't talked in like years. And I'm trying to tell him, and he's like, well, I'm happy you're happy. And he just, that's it. And I was like, well, is there somebody else I can contact? And he was like, no, that's it. You talk to your brother. Who else do you want to talk to? So everything I did was monitored, guys. And this was not at a time where like social media, TikTok, any of that, where you just pop up your phone. And this was back in 2008. No, 2010. 2010 is when, yes, 2010. So this was like, I mean, we had technology, guys, but it was nowhere near where it is right now. So I just kind of try to live my life there. And I'm thinking, like, I'm not being held captive, right? Because if I ran down the street right now with my daughter, I would be free. I have nowhere to go. I have no money. I have no anything. He had taken my birth certificate. He had taken my license. He had taken everything. And he said he was keeping them safe. I didn't have access to any of it. So I had no money, no ID, no way to get out. And nobody to call. And so and no way to call anybody, even if I wanted to. So I was not doing well. I kind of realized that something was very off. And then he says, fine, I'll take you to Las Vegas. And I was like, okay, we're going to Las Vegas. Like, oh, Las Vegas can't be bad, right? Like, Las Vegas can't be bad. We get to Las Vegas, we get there, and we pull up, and all of a sudden I realize this is also not his house. His dad lives here. His dad and his dad's wife, who is very sick, live there. And he is in this little casita, like this little like one room is like his. And I'm like, oh, what? Like, what? And so I'm like, I don't understand like what we're doing. This house, y'all, is a very, very nice house in a gated community in Las Vegas, a very rich area, pull in the back, kind of rich, okay? But this house had a gate around it, like a metal gate around it, and that gate required a key to open it, okay? So you couldn't just like unlock it and walk out. You had to have a key to open it. I was not allowed to touch the key. I didn't even know where the key was. The key was like nowhere in my access. The back door to like the pool had a key as well. So that back door locked with a key. And they said it was because they didn't want the kids running out and getting into the pool, which I understood, but I felt like the adults should have access to the key. So there was I couldn't get out the back door. If I was allowed out in the back, it's just like a cement block around the backyard. There was no, like, unless I scaled cement, you know. And I should tell you guys, I got pregnant like on our wedding night. He did something and I got pregnant, and I was pregnant with twins and without access to medical care. And so I was not feeling well. I was not feeling the best, and I wasn't going to be able to scale with my 2-year-old, scale a brick wall. There was no way. So I had no way out of this house, and he kept me in there for a year. I was allowed out when we would go to the store together, and he would like have me right next to him. I didn't have access to any of my documents. For that year, I was used as a caretaker for his mother-in-law, for his stepmom, for my mother-in-law. And I do not hold anything against her. She did not know. And she was very sick. She had ALS, she had dementia, and I love her. To this day, I will always love her. In fact, I did like a psychic reading one time, like a medium, and she actually came through and thanked me for everything that I did for her and said, don't forget you're more than just a mom. It was very sweet. But I took care of her, and I was not allowed off the property. I was not allowed to go anywhere, and I had no access to anything. And I was pregnant with twins. So yes, I was locked on a property. I ended up with complete Stockholm syndrome. This man kept me for 6 years, okay? In 6 years, you learn that you just belong to this person. There's no